So thank you guys so much for coming to today's podcast episode. We are here very excited to interview Caitlin Jones. She has a very interesting background. I'm going to really go into it later on in terms of how she went from business student to dancing to fitness instructor. And now she is a personal trainer and entrepreneur. So thank you guys so much for being here. And also, Caitlin, do you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Yes, thank you for the introduction already. My name is Caitlin. I am a personal trainer who specializes in helping busy professionals get lean and toned without cardio or crunches. And I think Christine and I are going to be talking a little bit more about exactly why that is. So stay tuned.
Sounds good. And I think it's pretty interesting because the reason why I even knew about you is because you were my very first Flywheel spin instructor.
Yeah, I remember. I've done it all. I mean, it wasn't always online. This online thing is relatively new, within the last 8 months with COVID. And I have been a personal trainer for years, but in the New York City scene, really the best way to find, clients was by teaching the classes. So I've done cycling and boxing and HIIT and dance cardio. And now it's just a totally different field, totally different industry.
I know you were doing personal training before. Was it just on the back burner, but then all these other things just came up instead?
Yeah, I mean, I loved Flywheel. I think there was something so community oriented about it. And with the personal training, it's with the models that used to exist in the New York City box gyms, it was very much like you had to work floor hours. So from 12 to 6, you'd be on the floor at Equinox, just picking up equipment and putting it back in its place and sort of cold open, going up to people and being like, hey, can I help you with your push-up? Or, some trainers would just go in with hey, have you thought about personal training? And it wasn't as conducive to that as just forming real legitimate relationships. And I think Flywheel gave me the opportunity to just connect with and build a community much better than that environment did being a trainer in a big box gym. Now, what's sort of different and challenging for me, and I'm learning to navigate, is building an online community that is genuine, that is authentic. These are people, the people that I connect with online end up being my clients whom I really care about. And it's just different. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just totally different.
Do you mostly find your online community through Instagram? I'm seeing that you have a lot of content there. You get very engaging in your Instagram stories.
Thanks. Yeah, I put a lot of eggs in the Instagram basket, mainly because it's easy for me to use. It was my coming of age social media. When I was in college, Instagram was brand new. And it pretty quickly pivoted hard from everyone being on Facebook to everyone being on Instagram.
Right.
So it's very natural and easy for me to show up on that platform in a way that I feel is authentic to me. I love podcasts, although I don't have my own. So I love chatting with other people in this space. And I'm now sort of trying to get onto Facebook and LinkedIn with my messaging and my content, because I'm just realizing that those are very different audiences.
Right.
But, sort of what I have to offer and what I have to share can help people there as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think we're going to go right into that more in the career section. But the first thing is that I actually ask this question to every person I have as a guest on my podcast, which is, if you had all the time in the world, what would you be doing?
You do have all the time in the world. I do. I have this moment right now. That's all I need. Hiking. I love to hike, hands down. For me, people talk about flow all the time. I feel like flow is a very in thing right now in the wellness space, in even a more working professional, focused space. Everyone wants to get in the flow. Like, what is flow? For me, when I go on long hikes, I do lots of hiking on my own, and I also like to go with groups of friends, but specifically when I do trails on my own, I do feel in that flow. It feels like a moving meditation. Yeah. It is the perfect marriage between physical health. It's obviously great for your physical health. It's huge for my mental health. I turn off my phone, no notifications. If I need to look at the GPS or the map, that's one thing, but I'm not really on my text or on Instagram when I'm out in nature. So I would definitely be doing more of that. And then, family and friends can never spend enough time there.
Right. And actually, what is your favorite hiking place or location?
Loaded question. Actually, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately. There is a spot upstate of New York City, about 2 hours in Mohonk,
Okay.
Called the Lemon Squeeze. The Lemon Squeeze is so unique. It's a challenging hike, and you're in almost this cave at one point with these skinny ladders just leading you straight up. And at the very top, you have to literally squeeze through a rock. And when you come out the other side, you're at the viewpoint. It's insane.
Wow.
And I've been talking about that one a lot recently. I just did it in September. And I think it tops the hikes that I've done in Colorado and California and, Virginia. There's like some real mountains down in Virginia, but I love that Lemon Squeeze in upstate New York.
Interesting. I never thought of a place, like a hiking ground at least, named Lemon Squeeze. It doesn't sound right.
It's so fun. It's like you're the little lemon and the rocks are just little squeeze. It's actually so narrow that you can't really go through with a backpack even. And I think that's something else I appreciate about hiking is the culture is so friendly and warm and welcoming. And in this instance, any of the most challenging hikes I've ever done, there's generally someone on the trail who is much older than me or much younger than me. In this case, there's this 3-year-old girl named Maddie going up with her parents, and oh my gosh, she was screaming and crying. I don't know if the parents realized like how it can be a little claustrophobic, like when you're in that part of the Lemon Squeeze and it's dark, and I guess she's scared of heights. So I was like cheering for her and rooting her on, and the parents were like, I'm so sorry she's taking so long. I was like, I love this. This is what I'm here for. She was so brave, and I cried a little. I was so proud of her when she made it to the top. And then I couldn't really get through the Lemon Squeeze with my backpack on my back, and the parents came back and were like, here, like, toss us your stuff. And everyone really helps each other out in that way. And I've found that to be true amongst the wider hiking community in general. So I do love meeting people through that venue.
I think hiking is one of those that like, it's the only one where you get a view other than jogging around as well. But I think like you moved out of New York, right? I think I heard that something.
Yes, I am filming this from Pittsburgh here today. I consider myself a bit of a nomad right now. I mean, with the business being entirely online, I plan on leaning into it. Only ever lived in New York and Pittsburgh. So this seems like as good a time as ever to try somewhere that's more hiking centric. I have my eye on Asheville, North Carolina, maybe going to Denver. That's sort of a easier and obvious one. There's a lot to do out on the West Coast. So we'll see what 2021 brings.
Where are you originally from? Are you from New York or Pittsburgh?
I'm from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went back home.
Yeah, here for the holidays.
Yeah, I think like most people during the pandemic, they left New York to go home to wherever their family was. Was that the case for you, or did you were already planning on going back?
That's a great question. The shortest answer I can give is it's been in my mind for quite some time now, moving back to Pittsburgh. I've had opportunities in the last few years prior to COVID that I was entertaining, and always at the last minute, I was just like, no, I'm not done with Brooklyn. I'm not done with New York. And yeah, COVID will sort of force your hand in that way. I mean, I was in Pittsburgh in March and April, living with my brother, helping, nanny and homeschool the kids. And just, I mean, they were helping me not be like alone and isolated in my little New York apartment. I did end up going back to New York for May and June to live out the last few months of my lease. I came back to Pittsburgh in July, August, September, and then I was in New York for the month of October, and now we're back in Pittsburgh. So it really just seems like, I mean, it's so tough. I've had a tough time deciding if staying in Pittsburgh is what I actually want for the long term, because living here now doesn't feel like living in Pittsburgh pre-COVID or post-COVID. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna like the people here, like meeting people. How am I gonna make friends? How am I gonna meet new colleagues? Like, none of that's really on the table right now. And that is important for me when deciding like if I'm gonna be happy living somewhere. So the truth is, now that my business is online, I think I probably won't live in Pittsburgh full time. However, I'll have the freedom to come back and spend as much time with my family as I want. And maybe that just looks like a couple of months out of the year.
Right. Okay, that's good to know. I was curious because I think I saw some of your Instagram stories. You were moving out, and I was like, oh, you left. Is Flywheel, did they go out of business? Because I saw the studio closed.
Yeah, Flywheel is technically out of business right now.
Aww.
A lot of the corporate, everyone's done their own thing from there.
Yeah.
I know several instructors are like Apple Fitness instructors. Several who are still local to New York have started Comeback Cycle, which is on the rooftop, some rooftop in the Upper East Side. It looks awesome. It's outdoors. There's an online community, Sweat Connected. A lot of former Fly folks are there. A lot are at Sweat from Home, which is all online. So in a way, I mean, it's sad, and I wish Flywheel had it deserved a better goodbye. Like riders deserve. It was very emotional. My actual last ride, which was like Saturday, March 14th. I think I felt in my heart that it was going to be my last Flywheel class ever. I was already planning on going back to Pittsburgh the next day to ride out COVID.
Okay.
But there was a lot of fear. Like the predominant emotion in the stadium was fear. And what was typically like back-to-back sold out classes for me in a room full of 50 or 70 bikes, each had like 10 people. Spaced super far apart, which it's not about me, and it's not about like having this big audience, but I just felt that the fear in the room was palpable, and that's not what Flywheel is about. Flywheel is about love and celebration, and it makes me sad to think that the riders, the community, never had that final goodbye celebration. Yeah. And also to see all these different offshoots of, you know, these online communities and this rooftop gym, and some of these trainers are now, you know, have an even bigger platform and more exposure, and they can help more people and change more lives. It's like all these different phoenixes rising from the ashes, and it's not going to change what we do and what we're about. And like, maybe the real Flywheel was all the friends we made along the way. Maybe it was this. So that's my take on that.
Okay. Yeah, so actually that's something, you brought something up interesting about Flywheel, is the community aspect of it. Did you go for Flywheel mostly because of that aspect, or like did it actually align with your personal goals and values?
I think a better question is, did I stay at that Flywheel for that?
Okay.
I stay at Flywheel for that aspect because, you know, it's my job. Like I need to make money. And actually when I first auditioned for Flywheel, I was coming back from this weird time. I had been in LA for a few months working on a project that was like largely unpaid. And when I came back, needed a job and was just auditioning for every studio, everything in the city, one of which was Flywheel. Got the position, went into training, got on the schedule, but was also teaching Zumba at Equinox, teaching boxing at Gotham Gym. And I guess the reason I leaned in harder to Flywheel and ended up staying there and slowly shedding these other teaching responsibilities is because of the community. There is something that feels really good about having that shared 45-minute experience with everyone in the room, and not every single case, but widely across the board. Yeah. We have the best staff and managers, and it really, it started to feel like home. Especially once I am in Williamsburg, where you were primarily a rider. My apartment was right across the street. Oh. So that was when it was sort of just game over for everyone and everything else other than Flywheel Williamsburg, because I loved walking across the street. I was at work in 15 seconds, and there was just this extra community aspect to seeing my riders at Whole Foods next door right after class, or at the park. You know, we're all chilling in the park on the weekend, and that's when it started to feel like family.
Interesting. I was a 20-minute walk away from that Flywheel studio, so probably never saw you other than through the classes, but I really enjoyed my time, because honestly, when it came to group classes, I've been to so many group classes either in college or outside of college, and it always felt intimidating. But in Flywheel, the reason why I kept on pushing was because of the very encouraging and motivating aspect of it. Plus I get to see my numbers, which is different than the other places.
Right. Good. Yay. I'm so glad that we were able to provide that.
Yeah.
Love to hear that.
So we're going to go right into more of the personal questions now. I'm seeing that you kind of come from many different backgrounds in terms of like all these kind of things you're doing with fitness, and also that you came from Pittsburgh and you're even a nomadic lifestyle right now. What are your aspirations in life at this particular point in time?
To be happy, always, seriously, just to wake up every day grateful and content and excited. I mean, I consider myself a high energy person, and if I'm in a living situation or working somewhere where I like that part of me just can't come through, that's sort of how I can tell something needs to change. I mean, I really do try to live in the present. Like seriously, I try to just find the happiness like right now. I don't know if there's a great podcast hosted by Pete Holmes, who's also a hilarious comedian and actor. But he's sort of this spiritual, this like new age spiritual. He talks about mindset and personal development. And one of the things Pete Holmes always says is he goes, "That's it. This is all there is." And that's really the best way for me to snap out of whatever is stressing me out and like bring me back into the present moment. So long term, I do believe that I'll be the owner of 2 dogs, 2 German Shepherds, Chief and Chase. I believe that I'm attracting like a very fulfilling romantic relationship. I would love children. I do see myself like continuing on this online fitness train and just continuing to, you know, really assist people with their health and fitness and overall wellness goals. Potentially, you know, continue down the real estate investor path. We'll stop there.
Okay, sounds good. And you just mentioned something I actually did not know about, was the real estate investing path. You want to do real estate investments?
I do. I currently do. I am a real estate investor.
Okay, wow. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I mean, let me think. I have a few friends who are real estate investors, and it's just a fabulous investment. It's a great way. It's so creative. It's really a lot more creative than I think folks realize. Essentially, the deal that I'm in right now was a family member of mine had a couple of duplexes that had been unoccupied for over a decade, and they're in a certain state of disrepair because of that. But I came in with an inspector. The foundation was good. The roofs are great. The neighborhood it's a solid neighborhood. It's like a B+ neighborhood in the Pittsburgh area, which is sort of exactly what I'd like to be. I'm not trying to own a luxury building, and I'm not going too far down the other end of the spectrum either. And I found a partner who is a girlfriend of mine who was in, and she's going to fund the renovation, and I'm sort of handling all of the holding costs and the management and overseeing the project. I mean, it feels effortless. It feels really aligned, which is great.
And this is probably where your business background came in, right?
A little bit. When I was younger, I thought I wanted to open up a dance studio. So I went to the owner of my dance studio and I said, "How do I become you? Basically, I think you have it all." She had this professional dance career that when she retired, she opened this dance studio and moved back home to the Pittsburgh area, settled down with her husband, had a few kids. And I was like, "So cool. How do I become you?" She goes, "Don't go to college for dance." She goes, "I know you're looking at some schools and I know you've applied to some dance programs." She goes, "You really need to study business." She's like, "You can go into the business of anything, but it's really important that you have some grasp on accounting, some grasp on marketing, some grasp on how to be a manager and manage a team." And that was truly the best advice I ever could have received at that time, because that's exactly what happened. I studied business at Carnegie Mellon. In the professional dance world, were there moments where I felt behind some of the other dancers because I didn't have, 4 years of dance study? Sure. But, hindsight's 2020. And from where I'm standing and looking out now, it's like, yeah, you can literally go into the business of anything. Anyone can become a real estate investor. It's actually a very accessible field. And it's way more about having that business oriented. It's very much about community. It's very much about relationships. And at the end of the day, like, those things aren't all that separate from a business. I mean, in one of my business classes at CMU, we spent a day in my entrepreneurship class going, when you really shake someone's hand, when you're in a meeting for the first time, make sure you say the other person's name. People love the sound of their own name. And these things are just applicable to life, to making genuine connections. And it's also a great way to do good business.
That's really interesting because I actually do come from a business background too. I was a business major at Boston University, and ironically, my brother went to Carnegie Mellon, not for business though, but in economics at Tupper School. And I thought, I was just like, wow, we went from Carnegie Mellon and business, and then you went to dance. How did that go? Were you trying to do like a dance studio right off the bat, or you just wanted to do something that you were passionate about? In this case would be dance.
Yeah, I always wanted to be a rockette. I always wanted to be a rockette. I was auditioning for them from the moment I turned 18, and I always knew I wanted to move to New York and be a dancer. By the time I was graduating CMU, Pittsburgh actually had like a arena football team with a dance team, and so I had danced professionally with them my junior and senior year of college. There had been several women from that team who had made the NBA, who had made the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had made the Brooklyn Nets, who had made, I think one went to the Miami Heat. Our coach was a former Cleveland Cavaliers dancer. So I sort of started to see this path forward. I was like, whoa, if I can make one of these football teams or basketball teams and sort of have that be the springboard to my dance career, that would be great. Right. And I just got very focused on that one thing. My senior year of college, I auditioned for 3 NFL and 4 NBA teams. And I made 2 NBA teams. I was very grateful to sort of have a choice. I ended up going to the Brooklyn Nets, and that made the most sense. All the dance it was either Boston or New York. It's like all the dance is in New York. So,
So how did you transition from doing dance there and then into fitness?
So in college, I had taken Zumba classes just for fun.
Okay.
Like, right, that's a dance cardio method of it's dance cardio. So I was doing these in college, came very naturally to me. My friends and the instructors there encouraged me and were like, you'd be great at this. Why don't you get certified? I did. I very easily scored a job teaching on my campus. That was my first taste of community. That was epic to have, my sorority sisters and also some of the, older faculty members who were like my mom's age, but then I had this thing in common with them because they loved to do Zumba classes and we formed all these relationships. I had Carnegie Mellon's a very international community, and I had several students of whom English wasn't their first language, and like we knew we could speak to each other, but it was really like this bond was the dancing, was the class, It was the joy, and I thought that was so cool. I mean, I just made some great friends and truly lifelong connections just from teaching those Zumba classes on campus. So, now I'm in New York and I'm doing the Nets. Well, that dance team would practice from 6 to 9 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday nights, and games are in the evening, any time. So I sort of was looking for this, the Nets, it pays well, it pays professionally, and it's a part-time job. It's not a full-time job. So I needed something else that was going to work with this schedule. Okay. Fitness just sort of happened to fit the bill perfectly. I could teach only morning classes. And some studios would have like a noon class, and I could make that my only availability and then always be available for the practices and the games at night. So that's really more how I got into the scene in New York, and it just sort of stuck. I loved it. It was fun. I love people. I was able to be around people all the time, which I loved.
So my guess is that like you've already done personal training on the side already, but then when COVID-19 hit, you tried to do this full time, correct? Like what else have you been doing? I know you did fitness fluency, you're also doing personal training, and I only just recently found out about the real estate investing. How are you balancing this out, and what exactly are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Oh man, I mean, yeah, every day is different. It's part of the addiction, in my opinion, of entrepreneurship. I get bored easily, and I don't have to when I work for myself, and I can choose what to be involved in, choose where to live while I do it. It's sort of nice in that way. I mean, part of me craves a little more stability and sameness, but in the era of COVID, it's like, if I come to rely too much on that and then it gets taken away by something out of my control, then that's really jarring too. So
right.
I'm just sort of going with the flow and riding the wave. I think anyone who's interested in entrepreneurship or online fitness and or real estate or investing needs to lean into, like, I don't want to say failure, but it is essentially failure. I think my background as a dancer, you know, you go to 100 auditions, you get called back to 10, you land one, and that's a success. Mm-hmm. And I'm sort of used to that environment, and I'm not discouraged by having someone say no, or not right now, or no, thank you. So doing the fitness thing online in COVID, it's like, I didn't immediately land on building a course. Fitness Fluency is my signature 12-week program for those who are new to strength training and looking for a total health and wellness transformation. I didn't, build Fitness Fluency on March 15th. First, I sort of pre-recorded a few workouts, and, they were 45-minute things. I was selling them for like $20, I think. Then I tried holding like schedule. I would do like 8:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. every day boot camps. Was not a hit. I started reaching out to like companies, like businesses, corporations, being like, hey, employee morale, I know is down. Like, why don't I come in and do this Zoom fitness class? It wasn't great. It didn't really work out. I started doing Zoom cycling classes. It was okay. It wasn't that fun for me. It wasn't that different. I wasn't adding that much to the space. So that didn't really last. And then the personal training was just like the thing that stuck. Okay. Yeah. It was really the thing that stuck. It started with, I wasn't, I was busy when we lived in New York. Like, come on, aren't all New Yorkers busy? I was busy in New York, so I didn't really have that many personal training clients. I did have my one very good friend who we also have a business relationship. She's my favorite photographer. She does all of my photos for my website, all my marketing materials. And I am her personal trainer, and I'm her favorite trainer. Like, she recommends me to everyone. So she was the only person I was training before shutdown. Okay. Post shutdown, she's like, I'd be open to going on Zoom. And I was like, okay, great. So we get on Zoom. Awesome. The second client of mine was like my best friend. She was like, oh, you're doing that for Kathleen. Like, can I do that too? And I was like, sure. Great. My third client is actually my aunt. She's still a client of mine. I don't know. I guess her daughter, my cousin, just saw my stories and said something to her mom. And she was like, oh, that'd be great. Like, why not use this time to? So now I have 3 clients that I just attracted. I didn't even try to get. And I was like, okay, the fact that I haven't even been trying to launch this business specifically, but clearly people want it. Let's see what happens when I start telling the world, hey, by the way, this is the thing that I do now, and like advertising and marketing and pushing this. And then it happened. Then I, pretty quickly went from 3 clients, all of whom were friends and family, to a book of like 10, which is pretty good when you're a personal trainer. Yeah. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, how can I scale this further? I only have so many hours in my week. Let's do the program, because that's a bigger group, but it eventually over time becomes a little more passive for me once I have pre-recorded a lot of the stuff. So that was sort of the trajectory.
So what are your short-term and long-term goals? Because it seems like you have so many things going on, and of course you need to probably prioritize one over the other. In this case, probably it seems like it's personal training, and then for sustainability wise, the online program that's pre-recorded. What are your short-term and long-term goals with that?
I mean, like, I truly feel in my bones that my short and long-term goals is just like my happiness and my energy. Okay. It's so hard for me to not give that answer. I guess, to really get technical, I guess what I'm currently working on right now is for the next launch of Fitness Fluency to have 10 women take part. Okay. That's my goal, to change 10 lives. I think that would be phenomenal. Just to have tenants in the first duplex. Like, we're looking at doing that renovation in a December or January timeframe, and people are living in there by March. Great. Those are like my technical short-term goals. My technical long-term goals would be to stay online, be making 6 figures doing the online fitness. And this sounds silly. Like I do have sort of a numerical goal for how much I'd like for this first real estate deal to make. But at the end of the day, I want to be a fair and equitable landlord. I care about these communities.
Right.
And I think real estate, especially investors, have a reputation for being predatory. I believe some are. I also believe that there's ways to, invest in real estate that adds to a community.
Okay.
In a way that's more holistic than gentrifying a community.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me. So, rewinding a little bit in our conversation, Christine, the part of my long-term goals that I was like, I'm going to stop here. I would consider a career in politics, like small local politics. I'm not trying to be like president or senator.
Yeah.
But I care about just the community and could see myself on a city planning board or committee where I'm really, able to just create what I envision for a happy city.
Yeah, that seems actually very similar to what my friend was doing. She actually helps out her family with an Asian international grocery store in Kansas. And because she cared so much about her environment and her city, she actually was running to be city commissioner. So it seems very in line with that. And I definitely wish you all the best. And I think you should go for it. If you're still thinking about it, you should do it, and you should do it.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be awesome. It's one of those things where I'm not like getting my stuff together to run for an office right now. And like I said, I get bored. Like this is absolutely a thing that I can pursue in my 40s or my 50s.
Yeah.
If everything goes according to plan, in my 40s, I won't be a nomad anymore because I'll have children that are in school. And that to me seems like more of the right timing for me. But in the meantime, just staying sort of in the know with like Pittsburgh local ordinances and I don't know. I think as a citizen who like really cares about, I want these neighborhoods to be less segregated essentially by class and then ultimately by race. And I think it's not in our future as a city in Pittsburgh to continue going on like that. So
All right. So one question I have for you is that when you mentioned happiness is your long-term, short-term goal, and then you went into the technicals, I'm actually pretty curious as to, there's something called hustle culture. A lot of people are like, we need to always be on go time, always need to do this, do that. And a lot of people actually see that as completely different than being happy. So how exactly do you do it? Because you're also balancing all these things, plus you value being happy. How would you recommend other people to do this as well?
I think joy is just an attitude. It's just an outlook and a disposition. And it really stems from gratitude. If I have a slow day, I'm grateful to have space and time to breathe and slow down. If I'm busy, I'm grateful to be working, and I'm grateful to be impacting lives. And I'm grateful to be creating financial stability for myself in the future. And I'm grateful that creating financial stability for myself means I can donate to more causes that I care about, or have more free time to get involved in local politics in a way that I think is effective. So it's like gratitude is at the root of it all. It's an attitude. When it comes to health and wellness, there's not one thing. There's not one secret. It's an attitude. It's an identity, truly is what I teach. Like, I am a health-oriented person. Therefore, in all of the actions I take on a daily basis, I'm like, what would a health-oriented person eat for breakfast today? What would a health-oriented person do with this 15-minute gap in their schedule? Would they go for a short walk, or would they scroll on social media? Like, what time does a health-oriented person go to bed? Do they go to bed at 10 p.m. to allow for 8 hours of sleep? Or do they stay up until 1 a.m. again, scrolling or like doing whatever else? So I think that identity is really important. So as far as happiness and balancing this hustle with a daily presence, it's like I identify as a positive person. I identify as someone who's truly happy. And part of that is it's a practice. It's ongoing, and just looking at everything in my environment and choosing to be thankful for one thing instead of complaining about another thing.
So in terms of mental and emotional health, do you do any meditation, or do you just kind of have a sense of gratitude and use that attitude as like a constant meditation almost?
Yeah, my mental health routine is definitely my morning routine looks something like, roll out of bed. I go for a walk in the morning, every morning for 30 minutes, roughly 30 minutes. I don't bring my phone. To me, that's the majority of like the meditation. Okay. It's not so much repeating a mantra or pushing thoughts out of my head. It's more getting into that flow state and rather not being reactive to any notifications or emails or the other, the world around me. Then I come back, I take a cold shower, which I know is sort of like, that's like a fringe thing in the health and wellness space now, but there's some interesting research coming out that it's fantastic for your immune system and physical muscle recovery. So I take my cold shower, I do my breathing, I do Wim Hof breathing method, which again feels, I don't know if you would define that as a meditation. To me, it feels meditative. It feels calming, and there's sort of a recording of his voice going on while I do it, but like it's, my brain feels relaxed. Then I drink my greens, I drink my mushroom cacao, I say my affirmations into the mirror. So I look in the mirror and I speak basically whatever I want to be true. I sort of choose my identity by, like, they can't be false. And so the example I would use for a client who wants to lose weight is if I have a client who's 180 pound woman and she wants to get down to 150, let's say, the affirmation is not, I am 150 pounds. I am 150 pounds when you're 180. That's not it. The affirmation is, I am a strong person. I do what I say I'm going to do, and I follow through with my goals. And my goal, you know what I'm saying? So it's more just this reaffirming of what we wish to be true. It's like stepping into that identity first thing in your day. And it really helps me embody that all throughout the day. A really common one for me regarding the hustle is actually like, I'll wake up feeling like, oh, I do a lot on my calendar today. Like, oh, I don't have time. How am I going to get it all done? I'll look in the mirror and I'll just say, I have time for everything I want and need. I do. I have time. Or I'll say I have the same amount of time in the day as Beyonce. I'm just going to be away. And both of those things are true. So I do my affirmations. I sit down in my journal. I have a whole journaling routine. And then now at this point, it's been like an hour and a half and I'm ready to start my day.
Wow, I actually don't do affirmations, but that sounds really empowering. I definitely will consider that too.
I love them. Are you big into the meditations?
I actually did a weekly meditation with my office. We had like some kind of every Thursday noon or so, we would do a meditation. But after that, that's all I don't do anything else. I think like for me, it's mostly I meditate by playing with my cats, and it helps me with my stress. But that's not true meditation where I would zone out and then kind of not let anything permeate into my mind and anything like that.
I have tried meditating. I've tried Headspace, and I've tried not using an app and just sitting. And, if a thought comes into my head, I picture it's a cloud and then the wind blows it away. I've tried different techniques. There's a reason they haven't stuck. And then there's also a reason I'm considering trying them again in the future, because as I change and grow, maybe I do find them more interesting, or I'm able to maintain those practices more. At the end of the day, I think mindfulness is really valuable, and it doesn't always look like meditate. Like this is meditation. I think playing with your cats can absolutely be mindful. A very dear friend of mine, we both bake sourdough, and we're always texting about our sourdough bread. And have you ever made sourdough?
Nope.
Okay. It was such a quarantine activity for a while. I'm not exempt. That's why I started doing it too. But she was like, tending to my sourdough first thing in the morning when no one else is awake yet is like very calming. Like she's not looking at her phone. No one's screaming in the other room. The TV is not on. And it's just working with the sourdough, measuring the ingredients. And it can just be mindful. And if your mind goes quiet and you feel a sense of joy or peace or presence, isn't that what we seek when we meditate? So I think walking is a wonderful meditation. I think breathing is a wonderful meditation. Cats, love that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, like I think I do pretty well with maintaining my mental and emotional health, but especially with COVID-19, there's just so many things going on out there. There's just a lot of stress out there, and then people maybe like they get laid off or their industry completely changes, like fitness and travel. So there's so many environment factors out there that can really affect your mental and emotional health. But I think this really would help a lot of people out there. So I definitely would recommend affirmations, because that seems like, even just hearing from you, I'm not even doing it now, it actually felt empowering.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah, that's such a good point. Is when the world is unpredictable and everyone's job feels like it's on the line. One of my favorite sayings, and I think this might be a Stoic saying, is wherever you go, there you are. And that's rings super true for me. I think, a lot of us experience various hardships, and all we can do is try to learn from them and try to become stronger than them and grow from them. But what I've learned from various challenges, I guess is the word I would use, in my past, is that wherever I go, there I am. And I overcame X, so therefore I can handle Y. Like X is in my past, Y is today. Y is Flywheel getting shut down on March 16th and never reopening. Like, well, I survived X. I arguably am a better, stronger, smarter person for X. So why wouldn't I, like, I don't know, have you heard of Joe Dispenza?
Nope.
Okay, he's really interesting in more of like the gratitude, meditative, mindfulness space, because he's a doctor, and a lot of his research has to do with how the brain changes through a practice of gratitude. And one of the I think I heard him on a podcast saying like happiness comes down to being more attached to your future than you are attached to your past, or even your present. In a sense, it's like, yeah, it'd be really easy to sit here in the present and just go, oh, like I still haven't fully replaced my income from, my Flywheel days. And, it hurts. Like, it's really the worst. Like, woe is me. But I'm so in love with this future vision I have for myself, just 3, 6, 12 months from now. That is, the business just continues to grow, and I'm able to just impact more people, and it's effortless, and it's with ease, and I believe in it. And so I feel that gratitude and that happiness now, even when, things are a dumpster fire, like right in front of my face.
Okay. So the last thing I have for this particular section of the podcast is, what advice do you have for anyone interested in going into fitness or entrepreneurship or anything like real estate investment at all?
Just show up, just keep going. Just pick one small thing that you're going to do to work towards this goal. I mean, they're definitely sort of separate industries, so it would look different if you're choosing real estate versus if you're choosing fitness. But like change your identity. Like, you already are a real estate investor. And what do real estate investors do? They analyze deals, get on Redfin, get on the MLS, look at what's for sale in your area, and look at what assets that you have that you could leverage to purchase or whatever. For fitness, or for being an online fitness trainer, it's like, you already have everything inside of you. What does an online fitness trainer do? They probably show up on social media like most days of the week and share their knowledge for free. Okay. They probably reach out to people in their community and say, hey, like, by the way, here for you, tell me what is your biggest struggle with fitness right now, so that I can help create a piece of content that really speaks right to you. So I think the quicker we can sort of step into these identities and just start doing what an online fitness trainer does, just start doing what a real estate investor does, and you already are.
Do you have any particular challenges that you have faced as a woman, or at least like any particular challenges that your female clients have actually faced?
I definitely think that one of the best parts of being an entrepreneur is you're the boss. Like, if I have yet to experience any hardship that I feel is specific to being a woman. I think something really interesting, sort of an emerging science, is cycle syncing. Are you familiar?
Yeah, you've talked about it in a couple of Instagram stories, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it until you mentioned it.
Well, yeah, either way, I'll break it down for anyone listening to this. Cycle syncing is basically leaning into the physiological changes that a woman undergoes hormonally over the course of 28 days. And it's, men's hormones and energy follows a 24-hour cycle like the sun. Women's follows a 28-day cycle like the moon, which is it's sort of a witchy or like a stereotypical, they say that in game. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Daenerys was like the moon and Khal Drogo was like the sun, right? But there's a reason that we see these things because men are 24 hours, women are 28 days roughly. And that's really exciting for me, is to be able to learn more about my body, the way that it changes over the course of 28 days, and learning how to like optimize those changes. And now that I know what's going on in my body, I can cater to it more. And I would say in general, like without knowledge of cycle syncing, I would say the challenge that I faced as a woman entrepreneur was I would experience PMS, like severe pain, severe cramps, severe moodiness, severe exhaustion, severe fatigue. And so I did feel like I was losing a week out of every month. And I was like, that's not fair. Men don't lose this time. They don't lose this time. They don't have to struggle with this pain or this fatigue or whatever. Now what I've learned is that I don't have to either, by just doing a few simple tweaks with my nutrition and fitness and the way that I scheduled my business. I schedule certain tasks that, make sense for this week of the month. And then I know at this week of the month, I'm more social or I'm more energetic or I have better endurance. So I can work longer days. And then when I'm in that late luteal, otherwise known as like PMS phase, it's like, I will feel better all month long if I allow myself just room to rest. So cycle syncing has allowed me to escape that trap of like the female entrepreneur who just, if my body doesn't feel good or my energy is not there, there's no forward momentum in my business. But cycle syncing, I'm so happy to report, I feel like I'm thriving practicing these principles, which is great. As far as my female clients experiencing anything at work, I mean, I work with a lot of very professional corporate women, engineers, consultants. And as of recent, I don't think anyone has mentioned something specifically sexist that they experienced. I will say one of those clients, her and I were speaking about cycle syncing, and she was like, yeah, I have been picking up what you've been putting down on your stories. And she was like, I just don't know that the men that I work with would like, she feels like she's already fighting this trope of, oh, you're being disagreeable today. Like, what, are you on your period? She feels that already, like, no one will say it because that's obviously an HR issue, but she thinks that she's already fighting that or battling that. And she's like, if, cycle syncing as you teach it or as you whatever say it, it's like, aren't we admitting that we're in a little less good of a mood sometimes, that we're a little less energy sometimes? And the answer to that is yes. And also in our other cycles and phases, we are able to get done 10 times as much work. So why is there, like, again, the whole office corporate structure it's patriarchal in the sense that we treat our employees like they're capable, that their energy is the same every day, that their brain hemispheres are connected in the same way every day, that their physical energy feels the same every single day. And just for women, that's just biologically not true. So if the workplace in general cares about what women have to contribute, which they should, then I believe a reworking or a reordering of that structure is in order to accommodate, not just this 28-day cycle that women experience, but also motherhood and allowing, women to return to the workplace and not just sort of quiet. And again, no one will do this out loud because it's an HR issue. You can't not promote a woman who's of childbearing age just because you think that her and her husband are talking about children. You're not allowed to pass them over for the promotion. They have to have equal consideration. But I think a lot of us know that's not exactly what happens in practice. And I think society and this corporate structure needs to reassess how they're really treating women. And that maybe when women have 3 or 6 months off for maternity leave and they come back, that they have more to add and they have more to contribute than missing 3 or 6 months of work. Sure, missing a little bit of time from work, is it setting them back? Depends on how you value your employees. But I just think that, maybe there's a lot to learn from these women who are going through these incredible physiological changes. The act of giving birth is an incredible experience. It's probably not the hardest part based on what I've heard from my sisters and my friends who are mothers. Like, I think we have a lot to learn from new mothers in the workplace.
Right.
Why aren't we it needs a total reimagining.
Yeah. That sounds like probably a really good standpoint in the eyes of maybe like a future city commissioner or in general, like a future CEO, where you can start making a lot of strides. But I honestly, your Instagram has been really inspirational. I did not know maybe half of the fitness terms or whatnot, like cycle syncing. I did not know about it until you mentioned it. So that's something that I really like from your content, is that even though I may not be in any of your programs, not including Flywheel, of course,
sure.
I actually learned a lot more from in terms of like the mental and emotional health as well.
Good. I'm so glad. And look out, I'm leaning a lot more heavily into cycle syncing in 2021. I have a special new program on the horizon. I can't say too much because it's still several months out in terms of development, but I can't not, and that's, we talked a little bit about pivoting, like how did I go from business school to dance to fitness? And it's like, when something sparks this much excitement in me or passion or happiness or the ability to just like dive in and talk about it and think about it and write about it again and again and again and again, it's like, there's something there.
Yeah.
Listen, like do more. Maybe that's your calling for right now.
Listening to your body, listening to whatever you want. Don't really listen to what everyone else is saying. In that case, like, what is your final advice for anyone out there, regardless if they're female or male, or that they're not interested in fitness, or that they are, or entrepreneurship? Do you have one final last word?
Be a lighthouse for what you want.
Okay.
What you believe in. That's how I live my life. I have no tattoos. The first tattoo that I get will be of a lighthouse, because there is so much out there. There's so many different voices and people calling to us, suggesting who we should be, telling us who to be, what we should care about, that we should be getting married, that we should be buying a house, that we should be having babies, that this is the way to do business, that this is the way to live your life. I try to be a lighthouse. Like, I project out into the world what I believe, what I want. I don't chase anyone or anything. And by speaking what I believe in enough times, it will bring the right ships into the harbor. And that gives me peace of mind. I've seen it work in my life. I continue to go down that path daily. So whoever is listening, whatever you believe in or care about, keep talking about it, keep embodying it, keep standing up for it. Just keep seeking what those core principles are for you. And once you know, or once you think you know, just speak them out into the world and watch what happens.
Thank you so much. I think that was a really interesting standpoint. A lot of people need to hear. I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory. Most people say follow your dreams, follow your goals, but I think you are a really, really good role model on that, because you actually did it yourself. So it has been very inspirational hearing your story. And for anyone else that is interested in learning more about you or following your journey, how can we find you on social media?
Yeah, Instagram is a fabulous way to stay in touch. It's just my name, at Caitlin Jones, Caitlin, Jones as in keeping up with the Joneses. That's where you can find all of the information about training with me one-on-one, being a part of Fitness Fluency. I have a lot more exciting stuff where that came from. And like you said, Christine, I aim to make my page just an educational page and a community. Please shoot me a DM, like, let's connect. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway was from this podcast, and or, what you're looking for assistance with right now, whether it be fitness or mindset or habits. Let's chat. I'm all about it, especially in these times of COVID. We all need more community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And all of her links will also be down below in the description. And thank you guys so much for listening to this. I really learned a lot as well. Like, I definitely did not even know about the sun and the moon thing. I just thought cycle syncing was just about your period, but that was a really different perspective that I didn't think about.
Fascinating. Yeah. They're both important. Mm-hmm. One is not better than the other. We really need both.
All right. Thank you guys so much, and see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me, Christine.